So here I am back on the land in Portugal. We've been away for 4 months and the place is seriously overgrown. So the first job is going to be to strim the whole area, or at least the areas that we want to access first. It's my first time using a motor strimmer and I'm quite excited by it. There's the beast behind me and yeah, well, we'll see how I get on. I'm likely to make a lot of mistakes and no doubt in a future video I will be demonstrating what mistakes I made and how to correct them. I only had one lesson in using this machine. It's not hyper dangerous like a chainsaw or something like that, but still it warrants some care and some precision about how to use it. I understand it's very zen, you know, the way Darren was explaining how to use it. It's almost like zen and the art of strimming.
Don't forget, when you're operating the machine, use the trigger like this. Not like this. Because you blow him up then, wouldn't you?
Okay.
When it comes to putting grease in the old Makina, there'll be a little hole down here. This is called your grease well. You have to stick that in there like that. Make sure it's nice and clear. There's not loads of gumph in there. And then we get the oil, not the oil, the grease.
What's it called, that stuff? Power grass. Just what you need in the morning.
Nice bit of power grass. Pops it down in there like that. Bit of power grass in there.
So grass is the Portuguese word for grease then?
Right.
That's good to know. I learnt a new word today.
Once you've got a little bit in the hole like that, you just feed it in. Nice and cheesy.
A little bit like a stern gland in a boat.
Put that down in there, and when the grass settles, it'll slip into the bearings, see? Keep them nice and moist.
Fantastic. This is a lovely bit of kit. I'm so excited about using this.
Yeah, this is a €1,000 strimmer, man, so, you know, it does what you want it to do.
Got some power. How much power is in it?
I think it's just under 60cc. Most of the other strimmers come at like 35 to 49.
Oh wow!
But when you get up to 49cc, that's when you get in a bit of a meaty one.
So this would be better for kind of thicker brush and.
Yes, yeah.
Not just for trimming the
This is
birds.
a proper brush cutter.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
And I could change the blades if I want to for something like a string so that I don't cause sparks in there.
Yeah, you can put a string on it if you're doing a lawn or just grass. It makes it a little bit easier and a little bit safer as well for your sparkage. And there's a mountain of different blades that you can get from this for this, from like a wood cutter. Yeah, a wood saw blade you can put on there.
Oh yeah, like a circular, like a disc blade. I've seen people do that on YouTube. That looks really
that's
cool.
not for wood.
No.
It's for cutting hay. So basically the blade is designed not to chop up like this one. It's designed to just go through and let the hay fall. Wow. So then it dries.
It's almost like a petrol powered scythe.
Yeah, it's a petrol powered scythe. I've got one. It costs 20 quid, the blade for that.
Could you adapt to like a saw blade?
You could, but you probably find that a saw blade itself will have a different hole in the bottom, so it probably wouldn't fit. But if you've got one with the right size gubbins, then yeah, by all means you could adapt to it. Some people have got, there's a wire brush fitting for this as well now. So if you want to clean like pathways or get rid of like weeds around stones and stuff like that, it just wipes them out, mate.
Fantastic.
Wipes them out, it does.
Thank you, Darren.
You're very welcome.
I'll show you a little bit about the land where we're going to strim and how it looks now, and we'll come back to it a little bit later and I'll show you all my mistakes in strimming. You might remember from the second video in the off-grid series, the last one I made, how we cleared this area with a digger. This is the first terrace. After 4 months, not a lot has changed. A few weeds coming up, but yeah, it looks like a little bit more settled in, which is very nice. This second part of the first terrace is pretty overgrown. It's going to need some attention to clear. I came through yesterday actually with a machete and cleared a little bit, but still needs some love. So I'm going to fire up the strimmer and we'll have a go. Of course, when working in the hot sun, it's very, very easy to get absorbed in what you're doing and become dehydrated. So perhaps every now and then, maybe every time you go through a tank of fuel, rehydrate yourself. I'm using mate because I love it. It's good for me. Lots of vitamins and minerals. Tastes good. So look after yourself. Look after number one. Just want to say, when I mention about looking after number one, obviously referring to oneself, there's no egotism in that at all, because we are all one, and if you don't look after you, how can you take care of anybody else? So that's one of my top tips for healers. Take care of number one first, then you can look after other people. So one thing I've noticed is, while the brush cutter is amazing, it does have its limitations. When going through some of the more fibrous vegetation, it does have the tendency to kind of get the plant matter wrapped around the blade. And to avoid that, sometimes it's just easier to use a different tool. In Peru, we don't have brush cutters. Everything is done with a machete. And I'm grateful to have had some time out there learning how to use one of these, because they're pretty dangerous. But they're very effective tools, and I'll just give you a little demonstration of that. Obviously, safety first. Always good to wear gloves when working with machetes, particularly if you're going through brambles, because your fingers and hands just get covered in cuts and nicks and scrapes. So a pair of gloves is very good. Comes out easy. Very zen tool. A very zen tool. If you're lucky and you had enough practice, you might get through something like this with just one chop. I've seen Enrique in the Amazon go through whole branches with just one swing. But he's been using one of these for about 50 years, and I've still got a lot to learn. and the rest we can do with the brush cutter. Behind me here is a little pond. You can't see it because it's completely overgrown and has done so in the last few months. Before I left Portugal for Peru, I cleared this whole area, pulled out all the weeds and cleared the wall back here, and I cleared all of that just to have access to the spring which comes out of the rocks here. So I'm thirsty. I need some more. Oh my god, that looks like weed plants in there. Pretty sure it isn't. Not that they grow in a pond. Anyway, I'm going to clear out a little bit of that so I can access some cool drinking water. Shot from the top, or near the top of the land. This is the boundary, a beautiful old wall there. And we go down here. That's a cork oak tree, which is an amazing thing to have because they're very protected species here. They're also highly fire retardant. So we'll be planting lots more of those on the land. As you can see, we're very overgrown here. You can't really see from the shot that this is all terraces. It just looks like a very bushy hill going down. You can't quite see the river because of all the, I was going to say undergrowth, but more like overgrowth. And there you go, there's a nice view from the top. That's a terrace I've just been clearing. It looks quite different to the terrace below it, which you can see where this demarcating line here, this is the top terrace, then this wall comes down and all of this green bush is growing up from the terrace below, so that's going to need some clearing as well. Each one of these terraces is, I don't know, 20 foot wide more or less on average, so plenty of space in there to put up tents and teepees and do all sorts of things. This pond flows down to each terrace. I believe it hydrates each terrace, but we're going to have to excavate and see really what happens there. And then it goes all the way down and eventually meets the river. There are lots of things we can do with this water, and I'm looking forward to this place being a very fertile ground. In that fertile ground, of course, we'll be planting lots of fruit trees, lots of vegetables, and making a beautiful permaculture garden where our only worry will be being hit by falling food. We go another little before and after. This is the pond, overgrown. I cleared a little section here, and there you go. We have access to the water. There's a lot more of it to clear out. Probably only done a fifth, something like that. It's not especially deep, but the water is constantly flowing into it. And I think one of the reasons it's not so deep is because on the side of one of the walls here, which is currently hidden by overgrowth, is a little tap. And when you open that tap, all the water flows out down the terraces. So it's kind of an irrigation system, albeit an old-fashioned one. Probably works a lot better with less maintenance required than a modern system. And it's already here, which is like a massive blessing. So I don't know if you can see the water just trickling out of the rocks there. I'm going to go and collect some now and have myself a drink. I think I grossly underestimated how often I would need to drink. I thought maybe every tank, but it's midday, midday, it's pretty hot, and I think I need to be drinking a lot more regularly than that. We do need 1 litre of alkaline fluid for every 25 kilos or 4 stone of body weight we carry. So in a hot sunny day, you're going to need more than that because you're going to sweat a lot more, and if you're detoxing, you may even want to double that quantity of water. I say alkaline fluid. You can make your water very alkalizing by putting lemon juice in it. I know lemon juice is acidic, but when you put it in the body, it becomes alkalizing, has an alkalizing effect. So yeah, squeeze some lemon in your water. I haven't tested this water yet. I don't know what the pH is. I'm taking a little bit of a risk drinking it without having it tested, but I have full faith that this land is really here to support and nourish us. So I'm quite happy drinking this water so far, but we will get it tested because it's just a sensible thing to do. This is the point in time when I find out that I have a tiny split in both of my Wellington boots, which are slowly filling up with water, which is quite nice. It's pretty hot here, so my feet are enjoying cooling down. How to get water out of a spring like this, where the water is just trickling down the side of the rock. There's a lovely little trick I learned. I'm going to use. I was looking for a large leaf, and weirdly enough, I didn't find anything here. I was looking around for about 5 or 10 minutes, and all the leaves are quite small. I wonder if that's something to do with the environment and having a higher surface area to volume ratio, meaning that they can cool off more. No, that doesn't make sense either, because elephants' ears are quite large, so I would think that larger leaves would help the plant cool down. I don't know. If you know why, I might only be able to find small leafed plants here, then drop a comment below. I'm curious. So I'm going to take a eucalyptus leaf. It's really nice to find a use for something which is pretty much considered a weed out here in Portugal. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see this. So by placing the leaf on the rock, you get a trickle of water flowing down the leaf. It's just a case of finding the optimum place to place the leaf in order to catch a larger amount of water. Now I'm going to use a little bit of this quartz stone that is quite abundant on the land, and just use that to hold the leaf in place. Maybe I'll try this one. There we go. Nice flow. I'll just drop my bottle in there and it'll fill up with water. Perfect. There you go. Added another rock, moved it around a little bit just to get a more efficient flow. There we go. My bottle runneth over. Cheers. Oh wow, it's so cool, so refreshing. Wow, what a great gift from Pachamama. Have fresh, clean, flowing water coming through our land. What a blessing. As there comes a time in every man's working day when he needs a break. So I'm just going to have a little snack. I've got some tomatoes and some olives, typically Portuguese, drenched in olive oil, and I'm sitting here smiling to myself while I eat this, thinking that it won't be too long that I'll be growing my own tomatoes, and not too long after that I'll be growing my own olives, and sitting here enjoying a lunch of food prepared on this very land. That's a really nice thought. Bon appetit. So well, there's definitely a learning curve to this power strimming. I think I'm kind of getting the hang of it now. I've cleared a couple of terraces. I'll give you a little glimpse of that. So this is where we came in. It's very rocky around here, so a little bit challenging. I didn't want to dull the blade on any rocks. Also, it's a bit of a fire hazard this time of year. If you hit a rock, it can start a spark, which it can, start off a fire. But I managed to clear this terrace here to almost down to where the pond is, and then this terrace here. It's interesting doing this because I want to make sure that I don't damage any plants that I want to keep, and not being from these parts, I don't know a lot of the plants that are here, but I've come across this little tree, and I don't know if anybody recognises that. I'd love to know what it is. It's obviously quite young. It looks like it's been planted here. Pretty healthy looking thing. Zoom in on the leaves here. You can have a good look. Quite durable leaves. Oops, there you go. Yeah, let me know if you know what that is. If it's useful, I'll keep it here. If it's not useful, I will whip it out, because it's kind of in a place where I would like to walk. It's a step down from here to the next terrace. Not a big step, but I could put a smaller one in. I think it might make a nice walkway. I mean, this is the end of the terrace here. My foot's just hanging off the end, and then there's a drop down, and I can't quite see what's going on there because it's still very, very overgrown. But I know that the terrace below, around the other side of the pond, is very pretty, and it could be a nice place to get. Oh, I can see the river from there. I don't know if you can quite pick that up. It's ooh, where is it? There. Can't see it that clearly, but it's definitely there. So it doesn't show up on camera. But wow, I'm going to get to look at this view for many, many years to come. How exciting. This is one of the ruins. It's the toppermost ruin on the land. There's two. The roof has come down, and but the walls are still standing. They've been there for quite some time. I don't know how long, but you can ask the guy who I bought the land from. He's a lovely chap. So mistakes do happen, and this is a really good one to look out for. Somehow I managed to get the strimmer wrapped around some wire that was quite hot still. That was part of an old fence. So I gotta start being more mindful of looking out for obstacles on the path, because that could cause some problems. I think generally with these strimmers, they tend to just cut out when they hit something that makes the blade stop. So it doesn't seem to do any damage to the machine as far as I'm aware. Correct me if I'm wrong if you know more about this than I do. But once the blade is stopped, I can get there and pull this out. I'm going to get back to work. The terrace behind me looks a little bit like Jurassic Park, so I'm going to go in there with the strimmer and I'm going to tame the wilds. This will lead to the pond and the spring, which is very handy because it's on the same level as the first ruin, which is here on the flip side of my phone. I started today around 10 o'clock and worked till 4. It's a good solid 6 hours working, and I am pushed. Absolutely knackered. There's only one thing for it: I've got to head down to the river and have a swim. I'm so grateful to Luis, the previous owner of our land, who actually made a road, cleared a road all the way down to the river, so otherwise I would have to brush cut my way down to get to the river, and that's going to take a while, but you'll see that as we progress down the terraces. So yeah, here's the road. I'm so happy with it. Okay, another day, more work done, but I shall save that for another video. I was watching the footage that you've now just seen, and I was able to kind of reflect a little bit on my use of this power strimmer, and a few immediate things come to mind that I'll share now because, good to learn from my mistakes if you hadn't already spotted them. The first thing was, at the beginning of the video, when I start using the machine, I'm kind of staggering around a little bit and I'm not quite balanced well enough. I think working on my stance to hold the machine more steadily. But I think I got that later on in the video, but it was on a time lapse, so you might not have noticed that yourself. But yeah, just holding the thing in a bit more of a balanced way. It is Zen and the art of strimming, so just to be a bit more Tai Chi with it would be very good. I need to get my revs up higher before I come into the plant matter, because if I haven't got enough speed in the rotation of the blade, I'm more likely to not go through the matter that I'm cutting, particularly if it's kind of thicker, woodier plants that I'm going through. So keeping the revs up higher. What Darren taught me that you didn't see in the video was that there's a sound that the blade makes as it's spinning. It kind of it's like a whirring sound, and that's kind of like something to listen out for, and I want to keep that whirring sound regular and consistent, which is why you were just sort of tapping the trigger like this, just to keep the revs up high enough. You don't need to go too high, but just once that whirring is there, then it cuts through most things pretty effortlessly. And I think the only other thing really was my swings were quite wide, and that may have been contributing to me being a little bit off balance, but I think I could have just kept it a little bit tighter, and that would have saved me a bit of energy. I was pretty tired after 5-6 hours strimming, so anything I could do to conserve energy if I'm doing a long day like that would be very useful. As I say, that was my first time using one of those machines on my own, so I will get better at it, and no doubt you'll see me in action with that in future videos, and you could give me marks out of 10 on how well you feel I'm doing with that. Anyway, I'm grateful to be able to share this with you. I hope you can learn from it as well, and that it's a useful experience watching this. I've certainly enjoyed making it, and I will see you next time. Bless your heart, bless your life.